Welcome, everyone, to the Nerd Journey Podcast, episode number 149. We're joining you every week to talk IT career progression and bring you the advice we wish we'd been given earlier in our careers. I'm your host, John White, at VJourneyman on Twitter, joined by my co-host, Nick Cordy, at NetworkNerd_. Hey, Nick, how's it going?
Hey, John, it's going great. We are both pre-sales technical engineers with backgrounds in IT operations. We hope our career discussions will be vendor neutral, relevant across disciplines, and remain timeless. If you're enjoying our content, please drop us a positive review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you subscribe. And if you want to get in touch with us, tweet or DM at Nerd Journey. Ultimately, we're just two nerds on a journey.
A journey to career enlightenment.
So let's take a trip.
Awesome, Nick. Hey, so this week we have, I want to say, the second half of an interview. That's like pretty safe.
Yeah,
right?
That's a good call. It is a sequel, right? This is part 2 of our interview with Chris Wahl.
Ah, that's right. Last week on episode 148, we had the first part of that interview. And if you haven't listened to it, very, very worth going and listening to that. I want to say, I went back and listened to it yet again, and it was just as enlightening like the 5th time that I listened to it. That dude is super insightful.
Yeah, for sure. I just really think that we totally glossed over in our intro and outro last week his emphasis on writing and how that really started early on, back as he was prepping to get his first job. And it's
Definitely.
Just been a theme throughout his career, which you'll find continues this week.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. He talked about that a lot, and I don't think that we really hit it when we did the intro or the outro for some reason, whatever reason.
I don't know.
We're slackers.
We are.
He, I think, kind of left off talking about his time at Rubrik, right?
Yes, and the magic of the startup. That's where we last left Chris on our adventure. Awesome.
Okay, so I think this week we're going to talk to him a little bit more about Rubrik, and especially like as his time wound down at Rubrik, what he did after that. I think he's eventually ended up and is currently at Slalom. And I'm pretty sure that we talked to him about the Datanauts podcast as well, because
we definitely talked to him about Datanauts.
We are both fanboys, and it was very difficult to not spend the entire 2-episode span just fanboying about Datanauts. So fortunately, we were able to hold back. But
we did our best.
Without further ado, let's get into part 2 of our conversation with Chris Wahl.
I think you can chase being a builder, but you have to respect the magic of that startup vibe and not try to chase that, because that's fleeting and rare, and you should respect it.
I feel like that's an interesting distinction to make, because you can still feed the builder within you, right?
Yeah.
From different positions. And so maybe we could talk about that a little bit. The current position at Slalom, do you feel like that is the part that you're feeding?
Slalom came out of a bunch of things. You know, I had been at Rubrik for almost 6 years, and I'm a builder, right? So I didn't feel like I was really adding much. You know, I'm very self-conscious about the inputs that I provide, the values that I provide, and the company was being so nice to me. Rubrik was absolutely fantastic, and I still talk to people there to this day. But it was one of those things where we all didn't want to part ways, but eventually I said, I think it's time. You know, I just need to go build something else. And I took some time off. I just quit. You know, I didn't have another gig lined up because, it's the pandemic, right? Everybody's going through some mental stuff and wellness stuff. And I figured it'd be good to take a break. And Cyberpunk 2077 was coming out, and I wanted to play that. So, I had my reasons. But I had talked to Slalom right before Rubrik, actually, in 2015. They were potentially entertaining a role where I was doing some DevOps stuff, and I turned it down for Rubrik. Out of the blue, I get this email from a recruiter, which I don't open recruiter emails from LinkedIn. It was a really nice message. It was personalized. It was to me. I liked it. I liked the person that wrote it. It's a recruiter named Becca at Slalom. And so I was like, oh, actually, I have heard of Slalom. And I talked to them many years ago. And this is who I talked to. I had all my notes, right? My binder. And got to talking about it. And it had the things that I wanted. It was a local team. So I actually work here in Austin with people locally. And I wanted to like live here, because prior to that, I was here a week a month tops. So I wanted to be a citizen. The second thing was I wanted to work specifically in cloud architecture. I didn't want to work on-prem at all. I wanted to completely obviate that from my skill set. I don't do any virtualization, and I wanted to keep it that way. So it was good for my skill set. And it's a company that really valued inclusion, diversity, to the point where I have the ability to hire a team, and I've been able to really bring in a lot of unique perspectives and backgrounds and build the team I want to build, and really hopefully give them some wisdom from all the mistakes I've made for the past 25 years. And that's what I was looking for. I just wanted to solve problems with a team locally here, go have some tacos. And it's been great. It scratches that itch. It's definitely where I want to be when I'm in my 40s,
Definitely good tacos in Austin. Now, when you were at Rubrik, were you also hiring people in the same way you are at Slalom, or was there a big distinction in the role differences?
Rubrik was a big role difference. Yeah. I mean, here's a quick weird story. So I'm at Rubrik as the technical influencer or something like that. Technical evangelist. I forget the original title, tech evangelist, I think it was. And I'm flying out all over the world doing these tech shows and stuff. It sounds glamorous. It's just being shoved in an airplane constantly. And the problem, every time I go to Europe, they would think I was a minister of some sort, like a religious man, because evangelist. And it got frustrating because I don't speak French or Spanish or these other languages. We already have a language barrier, and potentially, English is a second language. And then they're wondering, why is this, religious guy here to talk about tech? So I was like, hey, can we just change the title, please, to anything else? How about chief technologist? It sounds cool. I'll take that one. And that means I'll get better meetings because it has the word chief in it, but I'm still technical. So I made up the title. I don't think I was the first one, but I took that over. But my actual job was, aside from like meeting people and doing presentations and whatnot, was running technical marketing. I ran that team. So yeah, I had other teams that I also I had developer relations under me and like a competitive intel group and some other things. It just meant that I was kind of running a miniature department with subgroups and things like that. I was not so good at it, to be honest. I was more of the evangelist kind of guy. I wanted to write blogs and make videos. So I made a lot of mistakes as a manager. And I was a senior director in this company because I'd been there so long. So a lot of it was learning for the first time. I'd never been a director, much less a senior director. I didn't even know what that meant. So it was just a lot of learning and hiring and making mistakes along the way. But I got some good people out of it. I'm not saying, for those listening, if you're not a mistake. I made the mistakes. You're awesome.
Did you want to run subgroups and departments when you came to Rubrik originally? Or had you done anything like that before that time?
Let me ask you that question, Nick. Do you want to just travel around the world and talk to people and go meet people and do presentations? Or do you want to be a manager?
The first one.
Exactly. That was what I wanted too. Yeah, I think that's what I wanted. But that's not, it's not what you get. The company grows. You're expected to show leadership. You're expected to take on responsibilities. And, I did. So I just did the best I could and said, yeah, I'll do it. And honestly, my biggest mistake was I spent too much time not managing and not really thinking about my strategy and how I wanted to do things. I just kind of gathered a group of people and said, let's go do some cool stuff, and figured that was enough. And for a lot of it was when you're small. But once you start trying to grow and get complex, and a company becomes more like a company, you can't just go like off into the sunset riding on your, airplane horse and expect things to be fine. You have to sort of have plans and take meetings and spend one-on-one time with your people. So again, it was a humbling time for me.
Yeah, I think it can be tough to learn to manage, right? Unless you are in a spot where your manager spots that and points it out to you and gives you some guidance and coaching, it certainly can be difficult. I've never been in that situation before. I think I'm just echoing what other managers that we've interviewed have said to us.
I think I had pretty decent managers, but I had never worked at a vendor startup before. And it was all new to me. It was just really new. I think the biggest takeaway, if I'd give myself advice through a time machine, would be to remember that I have control over what I do in my destiny. You know, no one needs to tell me what my role is. I just need to do what I need to do. You know, I was always sort of waiting for someone to tell me where to go or what to do or what role to have, or, you know, I was too passive. I should have taken a more active role and decided my own future and built my own role and decided what I was doing more than I did. And I think that's honestly good advice just across the board, to be a more active participant in your own role.
And if you had had that opportunity, would you have steered away from becoming like a people manager?
No, I think that's inevitable, at least in that particular situation. I just would have gone way more into building a team that was building tools and writing code and working more on the engineering side of things, and not gone on the marketing side. That said, the marketing side, I've learned, I think it was actually more valuable. I think I made the wrong decision, just because it's a skill that literally no one else has in my peer group. Like who's worked in marketing for a CMO running a technical marketing group? It's very rare in the space that I'm in, and it gives me a lot of advantages that I certainly monopolize on. But at the time, I just wanted to be hands-on and really nerdy and tech out on this stuff, because that was my background prior to joining. So there's a lot of ups and downs, man. It's never black and white. It's always shades of beautiful gray.
Yep, and you're describing that struggle between I must be really technical because that's what I've always been, and then being okay with, okay, maybe I can let a little bit of that go because I need to focus on this new responsibility I have.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing now where I'm at in Slalom. Like, I'm super not technical comparatively, because I expect my engineers to be very technical and very hands-on. You know, I can design a multi-tenant, you know, CI/CD pipeline system at the architectural level, and then I expect the engineers to write the Terraform code and implement the GitLab groupings and just take the ideas and put them together. And I like being at that point. I don't, you know, I don't need to be, I still write Python code and Terraform code, but it's more just a hobby to keep myself sharp and up to date with the features that are available and kind of how things work. And everything else I expect, you know, the much more capable engineers working on my projects to deliver the hands-on keyboard stuff, or the hands-on YAML, I guess nowadays, whatever.
It's an interesting distinction to say that being good at architecture is not being technical. It's almost like it's just a different skill, as opposed to saying it's not technical. I don't know. I guess like if I were to say, you know, like building architecture is not technical compared to construction work, people would say that I was wrong, right? That it's just very technical in a very different way than construction.
It's a good point. I guess maybe it's because of my tools. You know, I'm working more in Lucid Chart and spreadsheets and, you know, diagrams and things like that. But yeah, for me, it's just now that I've worked in so many places and done so many different things, you know, to be generic about it, I'm just not afraid of really any of these challenges that I run into stumping me, because I know I got a great team. I know I'm not alone. And I know for, you know, 22 years, there's always some way to solve it, because people invent these problems. These are people tools built by people to be operated by people. Hey, I'm a people, so I think I'll make it work. You know, it's not that intimidating.
I think that we kind of like skipped over where Datanauts happened. And Nick and I were both huge fans of that. So we wanted to make sure to revisit that.
I miss Datanauts a lot.
Yeah, I think we've recorded kind of the origin story, but the short version was Ethan and I met at Cisco Live in 2013. I was a big Packet Pushers fan, and we were at a table for influencers for something that was going on, and I made sure to sit by Ethan. I wanted to talk to the guy. Like, hey, if I'm at the cool kids table, I'm going to go talk to the person I want to talk to. And we bonded really well. We're very good friends. And I was like, I hate that there's all these silos. I hate that there's like network people and server people and that we can't build stuff together. We wanted to make a show about that. And then we did. We made, it was called IT Engine Builders at first. And then we scrapped that and became Datanauts. But, I just got to a point where it wasn't fun anymore. It was cool. I like talking to people. I like building the show scripts. But I'm a builder, right? We built a successful show. I felt like it was good. I felt like the only way it could go was down, because if my heart's not into it, then you're going to notice. And I wanted to start a family. I wanted to move. I had personal ambitions, and we talked quite a bit about it, Ethan and I, over the years. And we always said, when someone's done, just say you're done. Don't worry about it. We're close. And I said, Ethan, I'm done. I need to, the show's great. It's in a great spot, but, and I don't want to see it just kind of like whimper away or anything, but let's just record a nice, thank you and move on. And I think that was the right decision. And I certainly I miss the show. I miss doing the show, but what I don't miss? All the stuff that y'all have to do to get these shows going. That is just, I retired. So there's no bad juju. In fact, I was just on a call with Ethan prior to this, so I guess he says hi. Hi, everybody.
He told you what to expect from us, I guess.
No, he didn't. So now maybe I should be worried. He didn't say anything.
Oh,
no warnings.
Okay,
so
well.
We had fun building it. I think it was a unique way that we put it together, and it was a show made of love. We wanted to work together, and we wanted to tell stories about people building better IT because they work together. And at the time, I don't know if things have changed all that much. I think they have changed for the better. But at the time, that was a radical thing. Oh my gosh, you're talking to the network people? What's wrong with you? Hey, they route our packets, man. We got to know these people. There's no reason to have a war over trivial technical stuff. It's totally pointless.
Yeah, I think Nick and I are just selfish. It's like when there's something that you love, you want it to go on forever. And you want the people who are building it to sacrifice everything to make sure that the thing that you love keeps on going.
That's really what it is.
That is us being selfish. So on the other hand, we started up our podcast, and we know what it takes on the other side. So I think maybe we are not uniquely, but in that rare group that totally understands why you can burn out on or just be done and not have enough time. And want it to go out on a high note. Absolutely. I'm sure, Nick and I have promised, episode 1000 rolls out, we are probably going to be done.
Maybe.
1,000. All right. I only made it to 200 or something, so kudos.
Weekly releases, so we'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll forget how many years that is. We'll calculate that later, but...
Nick and I are thinking about going to a twice daily format. So
yeah. It's going to be great.
What? My eyes just started getting big. That's a lot.
That's a negative. That's not happening.
I'm really curious, Chris. What's your perspective on the difficulty people have letting something go, even though the time may be right? In your case, you knew it was time to let it go, but I think some people, when they've done something that was as successful as Datanauts, it would be extremely hard for them to even consider, okay, I gotta lay it down.
I disagree. I think it's just, does this make you happy? Does this bring you joy? Is this doing something for you? It's obvious that y'all still enjoy this show. It's something you want to do. You want to put time into it. You've got all your fancy microphones and everything. It's cool. And I think that's just the test, right? Does this bring me joy? Is this furthering my goals? Is this doing something for me and my mental wellness or my career goals? And if the answer is no, then it's not the right thing, period. You need to pivot in some direction, or you're just it's paying the bills and you need to keep working on getting out. And that's just something I've been doing recently across the board. Anything that's just getting in my way or not bringing joy or not furthering what I want out of my life, especially through the lens of the pandemic, right? It's really put laser focus on how do I get the maximum amount of value and joy out of my life. And that's it. Put that lens on there and take a look. And if it's not coming back as a positive result, at the very least, you should look into it.
Man, you're ringing all the bells, Chris. Nick and I were just reading this book called Deep Work by Cal Newport. I forgot who suggested that, Nick.
It was a Josh Duffney suggestion.
Oh, Josh Duffney. That's right. And that exact theme came up, of paring down the things to the things that are most valuable for you professionally, that you get deep fulfillment out, and trying to cut back on the rest, because the rest is either administrative or, you feel like you owe it to somebody, but you don't actually, or, any of those things, right? You just, that's not the main theme of the book. The main theme is doing really focusing your professional life on doing really cognitively challenging, high concentration work, and being the most valuable that you can be. That's the main theme, but I think some of the corollaries are about, paring away the other stuff. So just really rings true when you say that. That's not a question. That's just a statement. Welcome to the Nerd Journey podcast, where John doesn't ask questions, just makes statements.
It sounds actually very similar to the methodology Jonathan Frappier took several episodes ago. He talked about peeling back the layers. He decided not to go to conferences and decided to shut down the blog because, to your point, Chris, it wasn't bringing him joy. It was making him feel burned out and like he was just overtaxed. And it sounds like you've come to a similar conclusion. I feel like people end up with this fear of missing out, and I'm in technology and I need to be the hero and do all these things, and I'm not thinking about my self-care maybe as much as I should.
Well, yeah. I mean, the problem with most FOMO is that comparison is a direct road that leads to sadness. Comparison is the death of joy. I forget who said it, but it was like, I don't want to compare my real life to your highlight reel, right? And that's what happens when you look at social media, when you look at investments that you feel like you had to make to be part of the so-called community or the social media community. And the lesson there is it's all smoke and mirrors. There's not really a lot of tangible value there, especially as someone contributing to it for so long. I came to the realization, I think a year and a half ago, like, hey, I'm out. This actually does nothing for me. I'm creating content and providing value on other people's platforms, and I'm sitting here swiping through, more friends that I could possibly imagine having, looking at their perfect lives through these really, really distorted lenses. What is the point of this? Why am I doing this? This is a complete waste of my time. It only makes me unhappy. It only makes me depressed. And so I deleted all of it. I got the blog still hanging around, but it doesn't send notifications to anyone anymore. I don't use Twitter. I'm barely on LinkedIn. I'm the happiest I've ever been. I'm off the grid. I don't know what y'all are up to or any of the social. I have no idea. And I don't feel any FOMO. I just feel joy. So I'm just focusing on me and my people and what we're working on and solving cool problems and writing it down and, waking up the next day wanting to do it all over again.
You probably gave yourself a lot of time back, too, just to spend with family and do recreational things you've always wanted to do.
The sad part of that is I know how much time it was because the Android phone and everything tracks your app time and the wellness. It was something like 3 to 5 hours a day that I got back. 3 to 5 hours a day that's just back in my pocket. I feel super productive these days. Like this whole year I've been just laser focused, ultra productive. The distractions are gone and I feel creative for one of the first times. It's been years since I've really felt this creative and sharp again. So, and that's coming out of a pandemic. So I'm like, this is weird. But yeah, you got to eliminate all that stuff. There's no joy there.
I mean, I really feel like you're trolling me and that you actually read this Deep Work book and you're just saying these things to feed the case study that's already going on in my brain. But really almost everything you just said there was like not quite word for word the recommendations in the book, but pretty much like what is actually bringing you value, and the like highly distracted state of looking at what's going on in other people's lives and possibly like comparing what you have going on there probably doesn't help. Probably doesn't help you do really important, deep concentration, highly cognitively functioning and demanding things.
John, you know what it doesn't do? It doesn't build connection. There's no connection there. I can't have 1,000 friends. I can have 20. I can have 5 that I call regularly. I can have my team of about 12, and I can connect with them at a personal level and a professional level that provides more value in my life, just the 15 or 20 people that I interact with on a regular basis, than the 14,000 people, following me on Twitter, right? We've become so brainwashed into looking at the signal to noise ratio completely backwards, where we take a social media platform and we judge the value of someone's message based on, hearts and thumbs up and other random stuff that's completely irrelevant and provides no context to the meaning of the tale there. And there's always a few exceptions here and there, but by and large, you have no idea the value of what's being provided to you, because it's filtered and washed through so many layers with a social media lens applied to it, that if you try to find even technical value, like where do I find good technical stuff? It's all marketing fluff being just shot throughout the ether. And the ultimate end is that you lose that connection and you don't network with people and build those bonds that you need as a human being, even if you're remote, with your close circle. So yeah, I'm not trolling you. I haven't read the book, but this is just something that I've come through in the past couple of years in my own journey, and reading what other people are suffering through burnout and depression over social media and the comparison lifestyle and Instagram and all that stuff. And just, no, I don't need any of that.
Nick and we're going to have to record an episode about this book, because this is okay, good. Is it on the calendar already?
Yep. A couple days from now, actually, we're going to do that.
Oh, okay. Good.
Did you send Chris the notes for that episode before this one?
I feel like he's reading them to us. And Chris, I kind of feel like you're undercutting this future episode that we already have planned. Not really, but like the passion that you have about this, I feel like, is like a really strong, like, argument for this, like, connect, like, false connections, shallow connections, trading your attention to, conceivably get like some kind of magnified attention from a bunch of people that you don't actually know. Maybe not a great idea. Almost certainly not a great idea. As opposed to kind of like the deeper connection that you get from actually directly working with people or making like direct connections with people. I don't think that there's a good alternative right now other than like work friends or conference friends that came from like kind of the shallow connections that we made. So I don't actually have an answer for what we replace that with, right?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was, I wanted to get that out of work. I wanted to work a place that there were people local, because, we can go outside and wear a mask and we're all vaccinated. And so it's just, we have a level of safety and comfort around each other. But you're right, it's hard. It's really hard. But it's also super critical. And it's something that literally every organization is struggling with, is building connections. Because I'm seeing numbers like 50, 60% of the job market is looking to switch jobs this year. Number one reason cited: not able to feel included and connected with their peers or with their company or with their mission. And so connection is driving this huge herd of people to churn through their own values and introspect their own lifestyle purely out of a desire for connection, right? So it's this giant upheaval that we're going through, and it's causing rippling effects all throughout tech. It's just been a really wild year. And it's just something that I feel like you have to prioritize. You just have to find a way to build those connections, because that's where joy lay, is in those connections. Yeah. Getting a little deep there.
Yeah. Well, that's a great point though. I mean, if you are on LinkedIn or Twitter, you might see a lot of your people within the same big company. Oh, they're leaving, and they're leaving in droves, to your point. And you start to go, what's going on? It starts to impact you in a negative way. And you're like, oh, should I do that too? Do they know something I don't?
Well, I think that there's this, because of the pandemic, it's put this extra stress on us. And it's forced people to think about what is really important. And I think a lot of people are going through their lives and saying, I need to reorganize what it is that I'm doing. And, for better or for worse, like a lot of us are in a position where we can say, I have the flexibility to take, a little bit of time off between jobs. I don't necessarily need to have another job in order to leave a job. And it's not that, it's bad or the job is bad. It's just that, sometimes we're looking for something a little bit better. And that can just mean, mentally, psychically, however it is you want to measure that, right?
Yeah. And what a great time to make a switch too. It's just everybody I'm working with on the client side is just slammed, looking for people, looking for talent. We're hiring people left and right. And you're seeing quality of life improvements being spread, guarantees for remote work, no longer being geo-bound to a specific zip code or tier for pay. So, well, first, we should find our gratitude. The fact that we have these opportunities is fantastic, and not everybody does. And then once you found your gratitude, find where you want to actually find your joy and your lifestyle. And now is a great time because there's almost this little revolution going on where the power shifted. I think the technologists definitely realize that they have that power and are executing on it by finding, that place where they can further their career or find better work-life balance, or, in my case, eat tacos with people that I work with locally, right? You can actually prioritize things that matter, and that feels pretty good.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. But I mean, that's all an outgrowth of, setting yourself up, speaking to the audience now, having the skills that people need, and, having gone through the process of making yourself super valuable, right? And attractive to somebody who's looking to hire. So, all the steps that we always talk about, doing good work, documenting it, improving your skills, getting better, always getting better.
Yeah, you have to have the chops if you want to make the move.
But then, if you've been doing that and it's not too late to start, there's these cycles that come around all of a sudden, now I don't know that this cycle is going to end. And what I mean by this cycle, I mean a situation where some of the most important skills to have are the ability to learn new technologies really, really quickly and then excel at executing on them, right? And is that going to change, next year? I don't think it is. I think if anything, it's just going to accelerate, right? And these types of, knowledge work jobs are going to be some of the most valuable out there. And so if you're out there, in this job market, I think Chris, you said it, be thankful that that you're in a position to to be in a market where people are demanding these skills. And if you feel like you're not in demand, then you might not be looking at the market exactly the way that we're looking at it. There is a shocking lack of talent out there, and people are desperately hiring. So,
and one thing I'll add is, if you were to eliminate the distractions, or I guess you would call it the mask of social media to a large extent, and get a bunch of time back and make more real connections like you've done, Chris, oftentimes that can put renewed energy into what you're doing that maybe you weren't as excited about it as you could be after.
That rings true to me, right? The idea that you remove the cruft, remove the distractions, remove the things that being highly connected, has this sometimes negative effect. And if you remove all those things, that you can start to feel really good about the stuff that you're actually doing and the people that you're actually connected with, right? And then you can make choices about who you're connected with and the things around you that make you feel really good. We're just talking to ourselves now.
Well, I like what you said, Nick. I think that rings very true. Yeah, for me, it just comes down to having the gratitude every day. That's something that you should start with always. And then realizing that, yeah, these things you talk about with learning and being able to learn and continuous focus on learning, it's just patterns. It's recognizing that there are all these patterns that work when it comes to building, designing, dealing with tech. And once you identify what these patterns are, it's implementing them in the unique situations you're in, right? So it's it's always going to be about learning new things and finding the patterns that they fit against and then making them work. That's forever what tech has been, and what it will always be until the AI overlords come in and we don't have to write code anymore. And the nice thing about modernization of the tech stack is it's actually easier to do it now. You don't have to go in and cable stuff. And, a lot of cases you just write some, a little bit of YAML or something and it's done. I was talking to someone recently. I was like, oh man, it's so much harder now than it was before. I'm like, are you kidding me? I remember feeding diskettes into a mainframe over the course of a weekend on the floor. Like, I am never going to have to do that again. That is automated, right? There's so many cool things that we have now. If you're thinking that this is just like not your world, like maybe it's just not then, because it's just really fantastic. I really enjoy the tech stacks of modern days today. That's just my 2 cents. I'm having a good time.
That's exciting
kind of ramble
to hear.
There.
No, those are good points.
No, that's a great point. Yeah, like it's almost like the things that matter you can get to straight away, and the things that were just almost like administrative about a tech job have all been automated away.
That's the hope, right? Yeah. I mean, we finally have chargeback in the cloud. Yay. We wanted that on-prem for like 500 years. So at least you have that, and an APIs. So what do you need more than chargeback and an API? That's it.
Hey, that's why people don't want to go to the cloud. They don't want to be charged back.
But if you could charge back via an API, that's the best of both worlds.
That's how it charges back, via API, man. Yeah. No, I'm a fan.
Well, it goes back to what you were talking about that you did in your first job. You learned the things that added value to the business, and I think what you're speaking to, Chris, is putting the disk in the mainframe. It just didn't seem to add that much value. But the things you're able to do today with the API, the chargeback, it's adding more value to organizations that we work for. And when we learn these higher level technologies, that only goes up, making us feel more appreciated, more that our work is important, and really gives you more energy to do it.
You know the big difference I think today is that we were the API before. I was the API. You insert disk into my hand, I put it into where it needs to go. Get the data there. And I think APIs, like even my past experiences pontificating on the magic of APIs is overblown. It's an API. Let's lower its royalty level to it's a thing that does a thing. It's more like now the joy comes from the fact that we have so many options. We have so much power to build what we want to build. We don't have to go get the vendor quote and put the thing and plug the other thing and then pay the licensing fee to get the console and the CLI. All this Rube Goldberg machine work that we used to have to do is gone. It's all contractually tethered with an API. It's all available using an SDK, a CLI, a CDK, 8 languages. Everything is available in any flavor, style, format, or, thickness, color, that you want. It's all there. And if you don't like that, you could build your own, right? So it's like there's no excuse not to be thrilled about what's going on in tech these days. Yeah, there's a bajillion services and you got to track it all, but like, congratulations. Welcome to any job that has change. They all have change. Even when I was working at the dealership, you don't think they had to get trained and learn new cars and be able to maintain cars that aren't their own type of cars, like other vendors' cars? Like, that's normal. That's just everybody's job. So again, if you're looking at this like this is not fun, this is not for me, it's either shift your perspective, find your gratitude, or just this isn't for you. I don't know.
And it's not like we have to be an expert at a bajillion things, right? There's a bajillion things because people need a bajillion things.
Yeah, well, that's where that's where people get all crazy about multi-cloud. Just pick a cloud, man. Just pick one. I'm kind of an AWS person, but
hey, I won't hold that against you. I think that one of the things that you said there was like it's instead of having to deal with all the friction between these things, it's like the importance has risen a level, right, to kind of that architectural level. And it's like I've always said, the whiteboard pen is mightier than the sword. Something. I've always said that, guys.
Then the second failed joke attempt.
It's coming.
Yeah,
I'm workshopping.
It's coming.
I'm workshopping.
Well, listen, Chris, we're getting close to the end of our time here, and I want to give you a minute to add any closing thoughts to the things we've discussed. Any last-minute career tips, words of wisdom for the listeners on getting to that next level?
I'll bring it home to the original point that frequent writing is a big deal. So on my team, we all blog internally every week. We share what we've learned, what we've experienced, challenges, you name it. It's totally open forum, and then we all read it and comment and interact with one another. So if you're looking to build connections and become a better writer, start a blog with your team or the people that work for you, and use that as a way to form that connection, and also write down all the cool stuff you do for performance reviews and other good things. So do that immediately.
That is amazing advice. Chris Wahl, thanks for joining us on the Nerd Journey. Really appreciate your time. And we will be, actively following your blog now, apparently is the only way that you interact with the world. But, we're looking forward to hearing about all the exciting things that you do in the future via your blog.
Thank you.
Can't tell you how much I miss Datanauts, John. I really enjoyed listening to that. I still remember the episode I listened to about the trials and tribulations of technical blogging that finally got me over the hump to start blogging, and I certainly won't forget that. It'll be missed. But you know what? I totally understand. If it's not bringing you joy, then you shouldn't do it anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't help but notice that he closed out talking about writing, and that emphasis on writing as, part of your growth as a technologist, as a professional like that. I still don't know how we missed talking about that last week, but here we are, doubling down on that now. So, man, that was great stuff.
And we actually will share the link to the blog post he wrote about the connection building with his team through writing. Yeah,
that's another good one to read. In fact, subscribing to Chris's blog is probably just a generally good idea. One of the things that he talked about was like that idea of value and joy. And then I think in that process, we kind of introduced him to deep work, because that's all we could really talk about at that point in time. Like every conversation we had tended to cross over into deep work, but everything that he was talking about, emphasized all those ideas. So my understanding is that Chris actually went and read the book and then wrote a blog post about intentional focus. So we will provide a link to that blog post as well at wahlnetwork.com.
Yeah, he basically quit social media, and he's way happier. And I mean, that one item, just, I don't know if it's the frequency illusion or what, but it keeps coming up in stuff that I hear and see. I heard it at AMP Navigator about people either eliminating social media or trimming it down to almost nothing. We heard it in Deep Work. We heard Jonathan Frappier talk about trimming back his usage to almost nothing. And then we heard it from Chris, and I'm going, this has to be, there has to be value there. I guarantee it. If you're someone who's completely addicted to social media and you haven't thought about seeing how much time you're spending, think back to how much time per day Chris got back by stopping.
Yeah.
That was a lot.
Yeah. He talked about like that excessive connectivity, and that directly paralleled one of the thoughts from Deep Work that Cal Newport had. And, it actually like made me think about something else that Cal Newport wrote, which was, the difference between a shallow audience and a deep audience, right? Like a deep audience is something that you build because you write well and you have insightful things to say in like a medium to long-term format. And a shallow audience is about, those like kind of quick and easy surface first thoughts that somebody has, in social media. You know, it's very difficult to have long form thoughts on like Twitter, right? So
248 character long form thoughts at a time.
well, there are threaded conversations, but like, again, really what that is it's a long form thought that's broken up into like 248 character chunks. And
actually, I think I misspoke. I think it's 256.
Whatevs.
Off by 8. Oh, by the way, if you find the concept of deep work interesting, check out episodes 141 through 147. That is our 7-part series reviewing deep work. It was supposed to be 2 episodes, but we actually made it 7, interestingly enough.
Yeah, it's I found it insightful to go back and listen to, despite the fact that, you know, I was doing half to arguably more than half of the talking in them.
I mean, I didn't time it, but okay.
I was looking at the waveforms and I was like, I seem to have more waveforms than Nick does.
Well, it's all about controlling your own destiny. You just like to control your own destiny, John, and that's what you do through words, right?
Either that or I'm addicted to the sound of my own voice.
It could be.
Or appearing to be the one that knows more at any given time. This has been Introspection by the Nerd Journey podcast.
This has been Therapy with John White. But that idea of controlling your own destiny, you know, if we go back to Chris for a second, he mentioned if he could get in the career time machine, he wishes he would have realized that it was really up to him to control his destiny in terms of what he did or did not do and the choices that he was or wasn't able to make on his own without someone telling him to do something. I think probably we all forget that to some extent, no matter where we are, what we're doing, times of stress, being overwhelmed. A lot of times you just forget that you do have a choice.
It's absolutely, you know, hitting all the cylinders on Nerd Journey bingo, right? Control the things that you can control and let go of anxiety over the things that you can't. Him talking about the current hiring environment, that was kind of eye-opening. The fact that, you know, it's just like amazing lack of talent, you know, and companies scrambling to hire people. It's just, you know, if you hadn't set yourself up to study, to get experience, then you can't really take advantage of it, you know, immediately. But that doesn't mean that you can't start right now, right? So, you know, go do it.
Go do the things. And if you move up to management, as Chris decided to do, you should do things to continue to keep yourself sharp. I have to say, I love the fact that he works on Python and Terraform as a hobby to stay sharp. Because for me, that reinforces what Camille Fourier said in The Manager's Path about how as you go up the chain, you should still try and do 1 or 2 things to stay tech savvy and not be completely removed from the tech.
That's a really good point. Well, Nick, anything else before we get out of here?
Nope. Just a reminder, we want people to subscribe and give us a positive review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. We want to know if we're being helpful and are always looking for interesting questions to ponder. We're collectively on Twitter @NerdJourney.
All right. Farewell, listeners, and tune in next time as the journey continues. I'm John White @VJourneyman, for Nick Cordy @NetworkNerd_, signing off.
Adios.